I'm Danny Hicks. Welcome to the Not So Secret Agent podcast, where we learn from top real estate agents how they maintain a thriving business, all while living the good life. Jenni Comer, welcome to the Not So Secret Agent podcast. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me. This is my first podcast.
Oh,
Isn't
breaking you
that fun?
in. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I've known of you much longer than we've known each other, which happens in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I think you and I have done deals together, talked on the phone, but didn't actually come face to face until the whole real thing came off.
It's been cool. Like, it's funny. I meet a lot of people in deals and or on Facebook or Instagram, but I never see them in person hardly. And so it's been so fun to be able to meet people in person more with the more collaboration and things that we're doing. So yeah, love that.
Absolutely. I do as well. I mean, it's definitely been interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I've driven to Midlothian so many times in a week
I know.
as I have recently.
We're trying to change that up. I'm really big about a vibe. Like, I need a vibe anywhere that I am with events or meetings or whatever. Like, we can talk about that later, but there's something in me about spaces and hospitality and experiences and all of the things. And so I'm always we got to get out of Midlothian. Midlothian doesn't always have the vibe.
No, it's very suburban.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Well, let's get into the questions a little bit. So tell me a little bit about how you got into real estate.
It's actually a really funny story. So I didn't go to college. Right out of high school, my mom didn't go to college. And so I thought I wanted to go to college like everyone else was doing. And my mom didn't go to college. She was an administrative assistant at U of R at the time, University of Richmond. And she was like, well, you can go to college, but I'm not paying for it. And she knew me because she was like, you're just going to go party. That's what you want to go to college for. And I just remember resenting her for that, being like, man, and I didn't have the money to pay for it.
Right.
So I ended up going to a 9-month administrative assistant certification school.
Okay.
Which is hilarious. I don't even know if it's around it. I'm pretty sure it was called the Braxton School of Business. And I learned how to be an administrative assistant. So that's what I did. And with that, I actually, it was awesome because I learned skills I learned how to dictate. You could speak right now and I could probably really type fast, exactly what you're saying. So I learned how to work for CEOs and things like that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And right after that 9-month program, it was 9 months. And right after that program, they place you with a job. And so I thought that was cool too. So I got this big wig job as an administrative assistant to the treasurer of Massey Energy. So back then that was in Richmond. It's a big coal mining company.
Okay. All right.
Fascinating.
Right.
And so, but I'm like, oh, and I thought I was everything. I was just I had my own office. My office had a couch in it, but I was the assistant to the treasurer of this big corporation. So anyway, I worked there for a little bit and did really well at it. The best part about that job was that I think I was 19. I was 19 or so. So I was young. I had my own apartment. I was broke, so broke. And the Massey Energy had a cafeteria in the building. And again, back then I'm like, what is this? Is this real life, corporate life? And now obviously I've been to more corporate offices and yeah, that is real life. But one of the perks of that job is that you got to eat there for free. Completely free.
Which is a big perk for a starving 19-year-old.
Correct. Had no money. So I would literally go in every day. And when I say meal, it was chef-prepared meals, spaghetti or, whatever. And you could get sandwiches. You could get ice cream. You could have Diet Cokes all day. It was a thing. It was an experience.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And so I would go into that job and I would eat for the whole day. And so I wouldn't have to have groceries at home. It's just, I was so poor. So in that job, I realized that I was really good at being an administrative assistant, but I was not passionate about the coal industry.
No?
I was I
mean, I know you well enough to know that.
But I've been to coal mines before. Fun fact.
Isn't
that funny?
Right.
In West Virginia. And so this company was a big company. And so they they had fancy trips, and it was just like a whole new world for me as a 19-year-old. But I was writing letters about coal mining shafts and like just random things that I'm like, this doesn't interest me. So at that time, I started, and this kind of has a trend in my life. I started trying to figure out what it was that did interest me. Well, at the time, as a 19-year-old, shopping.
Okay.
You know, what do teenagers care about? They care about like material things. And so at the time, Short Pump Town Center was just announced that they were building this big old mall. You know, it was going to be a new thing for Richmond. It was all the hype. They had just announced it on the news that they were going to build it. It wasn't even like in production yet.
Right.
So I researched how to find who like ran Short Pump Town Center, who was going to be running it. And I don't know how I found him, but I guess on the internet, like I found out who the general manager for the entire mall was going to be. And I found his contact information, and I just blindly sent my resume because I'm like, I'm going to go be the administrative assistant at the mall.
Right.
Like,
because then I'm at the mall.
Right. Because then I'm like in my world, right? This is much better than coal. And so I sent my resume in, didn't hear anything. And then I heard, like, I think it was maybe a month later, he called me and he was like, hey, I got your resume. We're not even hiring. The mall is not even out of the ground yet. Like, we're not there yet for this position, but I will keep your resume. And I'm like, okay, no problem. So I continue to just kind of wait. And, you know, I think I was probably looking for other jobs and stuff like that too at the same time. But it was about probably 6 months later, I got a call from Craig White was his name. And he's like, I don't know if you remember me, but you sent your resume in. I work, you know, I'm the general manager for Short Pump Town Center. And since then, I have put out an ad for the position that you sent your resume to. And I've just about finished the interviews, but I came across your resume. It was at the bottom of the pile. He goes, I almost forgot to call you. He goes, but I remembered you being the very first person to send in your resume. And so he's like, so I'd like to have you in. So I went in for an interview. I was the last person to interview for the job. I think he had interviewed like a lot of people, and I got the job. So I went to work for Short Pump Town Center. I'm getting to the point of the story of how I got into real estate in a second. So I'm in, because it's like a transition of things. So I get there. I'm the general manager's assistant. So I'm doing all kinds of stuff. It was fun. I worked at the mall. It was brand new. It was a cool job to have. But then in that, I wanted to do something more. I didn't just want to be an administrative assistant. So one of the positions at the mall was leasing. And there was a girl that I was really close with who did the like kiosk leasing. Well, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do who was the person that got to like determine which stores came to the mall. So I wanted to find the stores. Like, we're going to have this new boutique here. We're going to have, you know, Nordstrom or whatever. But then I found out my dreams got crushed a little bit, because in order to do that for Forest City Enterprises, who was the owner of the mall, you had to live in Cleveland, Ohio. And I was like, nope, not moving to Cleveland, right? So I'm like, okay, well, if I have an interest in leasing, what else can I do? So I went and got a part-time job at the Carriage Homes at Wyndham, which is an apartment complex. And I worked there on the weekends to see if I liked the whole like house leasing thing or apartment leasing thing. And when you walk in those, and I'm not sure what they look like now, but they look like little townhomes. Like, they didn't look like an apartment. They had 2 stories. They had a garage. And so I was the leasing person. I freaking love that. So that's where I started like really building a lot of relationships and sales experience through just leasing apartments. Well, during that, I was still working at Short Pump Town Center during the day, and I did that on the weekends. And I liked it so much that I was like, you know what? We're going to do more of this. I can go do that in real estate. So I took a week off of work and took my real estate class in 1 week, took the test and passed it. But then I was still scared to go straight into commission sales because I still was single. Like, by this time, I think I was 20 or 21. I was 21 by this time. And like partying, I mean, I was just living my life, right? And so I had my license. So that was in 2005. But I didn't go into real estate sales. So I just took that and I was like, okay, now that I have my real estate license, how can I work my way into real estate with the skills and the knowledge that I know that I have? And I had a little bit of leasing experience, but most of my skill was administrative. And so I went and found a job as an administrative assistant and a transaction coordinator to a team of real estate agents. And that's how I learned the business. That's how I ultimately got in, was being an administrative assistant, just using my skills and getting into the field that I ultimately wanted.
So huge transition. You said, look, this is, you were chasing what you loved right off the bat.
Correct.
Which I think that's huge. I think a lot of the times we get into the paycheck and then we're like,
Yeah.
okay, now I don't like it.
Yeah.
But I have my golden handcuff on, so what do I do?
Right. No, I didn't have, I was just, I'm interested in this. I chased my interests.
Right.
Because I was barely getting paid anything. I mean, at
That's,
any of these,
we
any
didn't
of
realize
these
that at the
jobs.
time, but that was an advantage.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but to go and chase your passion and to get in there, I also see a lot of really strong teams that come from the administrative side.
Oh, yeah. I will say it was probably the biggest blessing for me to start real estate from the administrative side. I got to learn literally everything about real estate that most agents don't learn. I mean, you get your real estate license and bam, you're out there, like, sell a house. Like, you don't know how to do a transaction. You don't know how to market a property. You don't know how to price. You don't know how to do anything. And I learned all of that from being on the back end of it and managing those transactions and marketing properties for the agents that I worked for. So I learned all those skills before I even had to go sell a house.
Right. No pressure. Just do the back end, make sure all the marketing's right. And you're on a team that's bringing in enough volume that you're getting to see it enough. Because I see a lot of agents, especially at the brokerages like what we're at, where, yes, the cost to get in is really low. And if you can get one deal, that's fantastic.
Right.
But you're not seeing the volume to get it down to a process.
Oh, yeah. They were selling back then. I don't know. I don't even remember, but it was a lot because I was like handling all the files. Fun fact, I got fired from that job.
Oh. Big mistake. You did the Pretty Woman?
Oh, God. I didn't even know I was doing bad.
Really?
I didn't. And in all fairness, I've learned a lot. It's come full circle for me. I didn't know what I didn't know, but I also was doing my best, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I learned from my boss at the time was very hard on me. And he, like, if I did one thing wrong or one thing was not, like, pinned up and, with a pretty bow and all T's crossed and I's dotted, like, I was in trouble for it. So I always say it was a blessing in disguise because I learned real estate in a very correct way, like in a very compliant, in a very methodical, strategic, organized fashion. I hated it then, but like now that's all I knew was how to do it that way.
I would also argue, and this is just from a management because you and I both have a team, if the person doesn't know they're doing poorly and they get fired, I think that's on the boss. Like you should have.
Yeah. So I have so many thoughts and feelings on that.
You know what I mean? Like you should have been brought in and said, "Hey, look, here's what we do right, and here's what we could do better."
I didn't know. Like literally, the way I found out is he walked over to my desk on a Friday and gave me my paycheck, and he said, "This will be your last paycheck. Let's walk outside." And I'm like, "Okay." and I will say, him and I now have had like a redeeming moment.
Mm-hmm.
And he's apologized for some of the things that he said to me, but it does play into kind of my life story. But he basically told me that I would never make it in real estate. He thought I was a good person, but you'll never make it in real estate. And I was like, okay, but that I think really fueled me.
Yes.
Because now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna prove to you
right
that I can do this. And last year. Well, the first year that I got Rookie of the Year, my first full year of selling, he called me and he was like, "I just want to let you know I'm proud of you." And I was like, "Well, hot damn! Like that was redeeming,
Thanks for the cookie.
Right. But even up until last year, because now I'm on licensed, I'm on my 18th year.
Mm-hmm.
He messaged me and said, "I've been watching you, and I just want you to know that I am sorry for saying the things that I said to you. You were amazing. And I'm sorry if I ever hurt you by what I said. And I'm like, God, that must have been a God moment, because God knew how much like I was holding on to that comment of him telling me that I wasn't going to be good enough. But now that like it really did. It was a purpose. There was a purpose in that pain.
So, I mean, most good things come out of pain, right?
Yeah.
If you're comfortable, you're never going to get better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you're not comfortable, that's when we make the change.
Right. Well, and from getting fired, I remember walking out and calling my mom and being like, I had never gotten fired before ever in my life, because I am like a people pleaser. I like to make sure everything is done right. And I'm like, I just got fired. And like my confidence on something that I was really passionate and interested about got completely deflated. And I had a moment where I'm like, I can't do this. So from there, I actually got out of real estate because I was just an administrative. Like I still had my license, but I had never sold a home. And I was still scared. I mean, I was still young, still scared. And I went and took a sales job. So again, worked my way into something to build the skill that I needed to go to the next level. So I went and worked for Shred It, the paper shredding company.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I know who they are.
So, you know, it's funny because they hired me on with no experience in sales. And all I had was administrative. And other than the leasing, I think maybe gave me the edge. But I had to cold call. That's all I had. I mean, like that was the job. You go and cold call businesses. And so I learned, again, blessing. I had to learn cold calling, walking into businesses. I mean, our office for Shred It was right over here on Westwood. And I literally had to just walk in and like create relationship with people. And I took it as a challenge. And I, again, look at it now in my career and I'm like, all of this was for a purpose, because I had to go and get uncomfortable and create relationships with people. And that to me is the success of real estate. For me is I'm just really good at creating relationships. And it's because I've been put in these situations and I've kind of worked my way through it. So that's kind of my story.
So that gives you like that whole, but that is real estate, right?
It's relationships.
It's creating relationships. And then we do some problem solving along the way to get to where we need to go. But for the most part, we're just, getting down to their truth and then figuring out how we can help them.
Yeah. And it was a really low salary over there. So at least I had a little bit of stability. But the majority of the money that I made was commission-based, but it was residual commission. So then I learned the game of residual. And so I'm like, oh, so I can get paid on all of these accounts every month, and then you build up, the accounts, and next thing you know, you're making a couple $1,000s a month off of residual business. And I thought that was so cool. I'm like, wow, that's awesome.
Well, it's a lot easier as you go on.
Yeah.
Which real estate's like that in somewhat, because we get our database and you get people in there and they are coming back to us.
Correct.
But we do have to earn it every time. It's not, they don't just, here's your monthly.
And I used to say, I feel like I'm much better at account management than I am at sales. But actually I was okay with both. Because it was a game for me. Okay, look at this as not going in to sell something. Look at this as going in and solving a problem for them. And that's what I did with businesses. So it wasn't as personal, but I also learned a lot of techniques of being resourceful to get to the right person too. So there's just a lot of learning moments from all of these little steps of my career. And here I am.
And so now tell me a little bit about where you are now.
So I have been licensed for 18 years. So with that whole trajectory, had a team. Still have a team, and then kind of transitioned into owning an independent brokerage. Kept it, though, very small. We ran it as a team, pretty much, called Jenni and Co., and just kind of learned a lot of leadership through all of that, how to manage a team, how to build a team, how to hire, how to fire, all of those things that are just not fun to do sometimes. Have learned a lot of learning through that. But today, where we stand, I have a small team. We built it pretty big back in the day, and I quickly realized that the big team is really not what I want.
Right.
I never wanted a brokerage, actually, and so where I get the most joy out of and what I'm kind of doing today is being able to pour into people, but they don't have to be on my team. And so I had to learn that back, for a while. I'm like, well, you have to be in my world on my team at
Right.
Jenni & Co. But I've always had the heart of coming from contribution and helping anybody when we were at bigger brokerages. Like, you want my listing presentation? I'll give it to you. Like, you want me to
Right.
tell you how to do it? Fine. Like, I love doing that. But I had to learn my way through. I think it was a little bit of pride and ego of building something. That letting go of people coming and going on a team, it was actually inadvertently like healing some wounds of mine of abandonment and things like that, deeper life stuff. But I've learned it through real estate because I had people come and go, and I just kept feeling these deep, intense feelings every time that happened, until finally I was like, I don't like this. I don't like the coming and going and pouring into people, and then they leave, and then they feel like they're not your friend. Like, I just don't like that. Like, I want people to be happy no matter if they're with me or not. That's truly my heart.
Right.
But I had to learn that through building the team, taking it back down. And we still have a little team because I need support in the business. But now I'm able to pour into agents no matter where they are. It doesn't matter if they're at Jenni & Co., at Keller Williams, at Long & Fox. It doesn't matter.
Right. Non-denominational.
Right. Non-denominational.
Yeah.
That is the best way to put that. It's non-denominational.
Right. We're just
Jenni's church
just
of real estate.
Right. Just improving, just getting better, just getting
Yeah.
giving you what you need and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And it's been a fun journey now. It's like a new season that I'm able to impact more people than I even could have impacted at Jenni & Co. And I'm able to pour into more people through training and education and mentorship and all of the things that, and making it not about where you are. I don't care where you are. Like, I just want to help you grow your business. Like, I always wanted people to grow and pour into me. And when I was at KW, I will give them a shout out. Like, so many people poured into me at KW and taught me that coming from contribution, like, we share everything, right? And that's kind of the mentality that I've taken on, is like, I will literally share anything that I do, failures and successes. Like, I have lots of failures.
I was going to say, we all do. I mean, how we frame those and how we put them on display,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to talk about them once you've already succeeded beyond that.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, no, I just got fired.
Yeah. And so, like, I have really learned how to lean into vulnerability now. And it's been a transition of that. But the more I leaned into vulnerability, the more things began to kind of play out for me. Of like, part of what I do now in education is that different type of education that allows agents to feel okay when they're not perfect. And like, that is what I'm really passionate about. And I think maybe that comes in from like my getting fired and not feeling perfect about whatever, like, I now can pour into agents and be like, it's okay. If you did that wrong, it's going to be fine. Like, I've messed up a ton. Here's how I've messed up, and here's how I overcame that, and that's been really life-filling for me.
Yeah, I've always viewed it as like, as long as you learned something, you paid tuition.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
You didn't learn anything, well then no, you lost.
Right.
Right? But as long as you learned something from that experience, and I always found that I learned the most when I failed.
Oh, yeah. Failing forward.
Yeah, exactly. When there is no way around it, I can't lie to myself about it. Like, that's when I learn the most.
Yeah. And now I get to teach that way, which I love. I mean, it's opening a space of vulnerability.
So what are you teaching? So what content are you doing? Lead gen? Are you doing all of it?
All of it. So I had this dream of a company, like a education company, a couple years ago. And it's called the Real Estate Method. I named it the Method because I want to show different methods of doing business.
Okay.
Not everybody's method is the same.
Well, that's very true.
Yeah. And so the way that I'm educating in the Real Estate Method brand is behind the scenes stuff. So me on a listing appointment, you on a listing appointment, me, at a investor walkthrough, like talking about design, like how is it that I'm creating relationship? Because I think that you can learn in a classroom, like we all learn when we get our license, we go take CE and post licensing and all the things. That's one thing. But the actual learning doesn't come until you're in the field and
Yeah.
you're going through the experiences and you're seeing how people react. And every single situation is different. Like there is no way to textbook that out or to even class that out. Like everything is different. So you could be perfectly prepared for a listing appointment and then you show up and like you have to pivot immediately because something is different or it's off.
Well, on a listing appointment or any client interaction, we're really trying to figure out what's important to them.
Correct.
Like us going in and saying, look, this is my dog and pony show and I'm going to show it to you.
Correct. Yeah.
No, that's not what it is.
No.
It's literally like, what are your concerns, Mr. Seller? What experiences have you had? And then address those because you have like a 15-minute window
Right.
of their attention. Like that's
Right.
what they
well, and
get.
it's about people. It's about
Yeah.
relationships and what is important to them as a person, you know, and who are they as a person so you can mirror and match that personality type. Or that's been the most fascinating part of all of it for me. I mean, I used to say, like, when I started real estate, I had never bought a house. Like, I sold for a lot of years before I even actually bought a house myself. And I always say, like, I had no clue about the actual house. That's just the product. But the people is the business, right? And so, like, the service of the people is what I really excel at. I had to learn the product. I had to learn what soffit was and, like, you know, joist and all the things.
I came from the other side because my family owned a construction company.
So you know all
I
that.
knew the house inside out, and then I had to learn the people, which,
Yeah.
you know, it's funny. I did go to college, but I came out of school as an art teacher.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a fun fact.
Fun fact, right?
Love that.
Yeah. Well, they didn't give us a job out of school. So you're
We got screwed.
I was going to say you're
You probably paid a lot more for that, too.
Oh, I did. My degree is in finger painting. That's my joke.
Is it really?
That's art education. But yes.
Love that. Okay.
Yeah. So, but you come in and you're teaching and you're learning people and you're learning how to communicate with people and you're learning how to teach them things. You're also learning how to listen for what, you know, what turns them on.
Yes.
And what turns them off.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Their pain points.
Right. And then delivering that along with the information.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what real estate is.
That's what I'm teaching. Is the relational. If you come, I mean, I'll teach skill and like ethics and contracts, and I actually really like to teach those things because to me it's a strategy thing.
Well, they're black and white.
Right. But what I'm teaching in the method, it's called Behind the Mind, and you actually see me. I have a camera following me, and you know, I'm in literally a normal appointment. Like all I do is ask the people, "Are you willing to let me film me doing me?" They sometimes never had met me before. Sometimes they had. And I'm just doing my thing, like showing up at a listing appointment or buyer appointment or investor or whatever. And I just have somebody following me and we just pretend like they're not there. But the beauty of it is it's called Behind the Mind for a reason. Because when you watch it back in this membership, it's a membership. When you watch it back, I have done voiceovers. So I watch it back and I'm like, this is what I was thinking in this moment. This is what I was noticing about what they said, what they didn't do, how they're moving, you know, if they are agreeing, not agreeing. And then I'm pointing out things of like why I say things the way that I say. So I'm like, I'm noticing this and this is how I'm going to turn this conversation to get them in agreement with me. And so I'm teaching from what I'm thinking, which is why it's called Behind the Mind. And so I get so much like joy out of doing that because you cannot teach that in a class. You have to watch it.
Well, so we just started using this app called Otter.
Uh-huh.
And so, do you know what that is?
Otter AI?
It is, but they have one that goes to meetings with you.
Oh,
and
yes,
it takes
yes.
notes for Zoom.
Yeah.
But they have one that literally records and dictates as you're talking.
Huh.
And so sometimes, like I've been playing with this, but really more of a to remember everything, to go
Yeah.
back and to see it and to relive it and to take the notes, because we do a really good job when I'm servicing somebody, when I'm paying attention to them, they have all my attention.
Yeah.
And during that transaction, I could tell you their kid's name and their dog's name
Yeah,
and
me
all
too.
those things.
Right.
But, you know, I do a lot of transactions
Right.
in a year. I do a lot of volume. You know, I don't have the price point that other people have.
Right.
So I find that a year later, the baby that was in the carriage, that was just a baby, and we didn't say their name 13 times, I just don't remember it.
Oh, no, I have a problem with that too.
Right. And so
Yeah.
I'm thinking that this could be a way
Yeah.
to go back and look at those notes before I've forgotten everything and write them down and get them into the database
Yeah.
and have that organic, because I do care about those people and you do
Yeah.
want that relationship. It's not.
It's impossible to know everybody's dog name, baby name. Like when you are servicing hundreds of clients a year, or even if you're not, even if you're serving, I mean, people don't have good memories, and we're meeting a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the social media is in your face, and you're keeping up with people's lives on social media all day long, even if you don't have a relationship with them. Like it's a lot to retain in your head.
So many things.
Yeah.
Which I find. So I find the concept of behind the mind, I like that. I like that you get to go back and watch it, because that's one of the things I like about this show. Mm-hmm. Like literally, I'm interviewing people that interest me, that I want to learn from, and I get to go back and hear it. So I don't need to spend my time writing, because we'll have not only how you said it,
right,
but what you said and all of those things
right
on tape. We can go back and listen to as many times as we want.
Yeah, and it's. To me, the reason why it's a membership, and there's a couple of, I'm trying to feel how people are, right? So, like, I try to do things how I would want to receive them, or what I would buy or I wouldn't buy, whatever. I'm a very big person of being different. I don't like to do the same thing that everybody's doing. I think that I have stood out in the marketplace because of that, because I'm just not like everyone else. But I also... cost point, price point wise, like I could go and sell courses. Sure. And maybe one day I will. I'm not putting that out there, but like to have an agent buy an $800 course puts a lot of pressure on me to like make sure that they're getting $800 worth of value.
Well, it's also stagnant, right?
Right. And it dates itself.
Yes.
Right. And that's a lot of work on me. I'm better at stuff like this, but I am not good at scripted things, which is why the behind the mind works so well for me, because I'm just me. Like you're just seeing me being me, which is hilarious sometimes, because when I'm watching it back, I'm like, oh God, oh boy, all right. But my hope is somebody seeing me either mess up or flub a word, or show up not prepared, or whatever it is on that episode that is the highlight of that, is that they cannot feel alone when they do the same things.
Well, it's a lot of, real estate in general is a lot of problem solving. It's a lot of dealing with whatever situation shows up.
Yeah. Yes.
I've had ones where you're showing a house and I've dropped a key and it would
went
literally
through the deck.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God, I've had that too.
And I
then
was
you
like,
have to go, and hopefully you can get under to get it.
Oh,
but some of them you can't.
Right. And now you're literally telling your client, you're not making things up, but you're figuring out a way to entertain them
in the moment.
Yeah. While you're in your mind, you're going, oh, I've just messed up big time. What do I do? How do I fix this problem?
Yeah.
How do I fix this problem without them knowing? Do I just tell them?
Yeah.
Like all of that. And that's just one example that came to my mind. There's so many times where you show up and, I
had a tenant once. I was listing a house with a tenant in it. So I'm trying to do all kinds of different, every single one is different.
Oh, yeah,
but
all of them.
This was a tenant situation, and I had created a pretty good rapport with that tenant. So her and I were buds, but she so much that when I walk in to prep the house for photos, she knew I was coming. She said she was going to be there. All was well. She literally was in the shower, and she's like, "Come on in," and I'm like, "Oh God," and I'm like filming. So you hear me being like, "This is weird. Just make sure you're not getting hurt." She walks out in her towel.
What?
And she's just like, "Hey, girl," and just like talking to me. And I had to, in that moment, keep it together of being like, yeah, like it's like she was standing there fully clothed. And, it's hilarious because you see I haven't released that episode yet, but it's hilarious because you see me, like you see how the camera is following me. And then all of a sudden you could see like the camera girl was like, okay, she's in her towel. And like you see it like kind of go to the side, but you hear me because I'm mic'd up the whole time. And so you hear me just acting normal, like, like nothing's going on.
But that's real estate.
Right.
Like everything's on fire, but you don't know it. And that's one of the things,
yeah.
and this is a totally different subject. So
okay,
forgive me on this.
Yeah, good.
But like, do we, with all of the buyer brokerage agreement and we're telling them all the things that we're doing and we've done a bad job of communicating our value.
Yeah.
Do we tell them about all the things that are on fire?
That was a discussion that I was involved in the other day. And somebody said, We need to stop making it look so easy.
Yeah, I tend to fix the problem, then tell them about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Or do you tell them how you overcame? Like, and
yeah,
that's part of it. Like, okay,
you
this was
do.
a fire.
But going back to what we were talking about, the worry is what
Yeah.
drives it home. When
Yeah.
we go, hey, look, this isn't even a problem. I've already fixed it. They go, great.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Because I came from a broker and he told him about every bump in the road. And at the time, I was like, nah, you just fix it. Like part of what we're
Right.
doing is taking
Right.
punches for them. We're fixing stress for them.
Right.
Like they got enough to be stressed about. If this is a problem I can fix,
Right.
they don't need to know about it.
Well, I have a kind of approach where I do that. I'll say, hey, I just want to let you know what's going on, just to keep you in the loop. This is what's happening, download dumpster fire. And then I'm like, but I've already done this, this, and this is what's going to happen next. And I'm waiting on this. And next we're going to do this. And I don't want you to worry about it, but I needed to let you know about it. And the way I deliver that is in a way of people do think they're like, wow, she's awesome. Like,
Right.
because I'm telling them there's a problem. I'm still telling them, but I've already proactively done some steps. Maybe it's not fixed yet. Or maybe I don't know the answer, but I'm going to be the resource for them to find the answer, or how we're going to get through it, or what my next plan is. Let's just say a house is, a contract's falling apart. Like, okay, this is what it's looking like, but here's what I think we should do next. Like, I'm coming up with that strategy for them so they're not having to sit in that worry and anxiety
Right.
too long, but they still know what's happening. And then I'm able you're able to just help soothe them a little bit.
I was gonna say that might be better. Like I said, I fix it completely, and then I tell them, yeah, this was on fire. But don't worry, we're on the ground now. It's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I say it in the moment.
Yeah, no, that's probably
because it helps them understand what they're paying for and like who you are to them. Like, you are an advocate. You are an advocate, and things are not perfect, and this is hard sometimes.
well, it's
Right?
I mean, it's definitely, especially depending on the price point right now in the market.
Right. But those stories are what they tell their friends.
It is.
So if they don't know the story, they don't have that like, oh shit moment to go and tell their friends and how you've overcome it. Like, they're literally writing a story for them.
Right. So just telling them about it during it, and saying, and you could also even go, here are the options. This is what I'm thinking we should do. Because there's probably more than one way to fix it.
Oh yeah.
Depending.
Your strategy, and sometimes, again, knowing the client, you got to know your client, right? Does your client want to be involved? Are they that, kind of know-it-all client who wants to be in control of all outcomes? If you know that, then put options in front of them and then say, what do you think? Do you have any other suggestions? Like, and that gives them the control if they need it. But then there's some people, if you ask that question, I mean, you can ask what they think, but like, if you say, what do you think we should do? They're going to be like, I don't know. How many times have you heard, like, I don't know, you're the realtor?
Yeah.
Like, especially on price. Like, I'm like, what do you think about price? And they're like, I don't know, you're the realtor.
I hear that a lot, but then they always have an opinion. So
Always.
So I really do. We want to hear where you're coming from way before we give that number.
Yeah. The other cool thing about the Behind the Mind is another aspect of it. Not only are you seeing episodes of me just doing things, my goal and vision is to have other agents doing this. So I'm kind of leading the pack, and I'm going to try it, and get a good rhythm with it first. But then I want people to raise their hand and say, Jenni, I want to be a part of that. And I want to show my method. That's what's called the method. It's not Jenni's method. It's methods that work,
Okay.
And so my bigger vision is agents anywhere across the country. Everybody does stuff different, and markets are different and all of that. But the other part of it that we do is this thing called Unfiltered. And have you ever heard of Hear It Direct?
No.
So it used to be, I don't think it's around anymore, but it used to be a conference that you could go to, like an event, maybe not a conference, an event that they would bring real estate consumers on a stage. You would pay it as a real estate agent, you would pay a ticket to go and watch this panel of real estate consumers, and they would have multiple panels usually, and they'd have a moderator, and they would ask honest questions about the experience of the consumer with their real estate agent. And so the one I went to was up in, I think it was in Baltimore, maybe. And I was so fascinated by it because you got to hear things that maybe people aren't telling us as their agent. And so anyway, fast forward to now, I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to just hear directly from the consumer their experience with real estate agents? Because most of the time people have either amazing experiences that they talk about or really terrible experiences. And most of the time they're talking about the terrible experiences.
Right.
And so I'm using that as a form of education to agents. So I'm interviewing the consumers and I'm saying, tell me about your experience. How did you meet your agent? Tell me about the communication. And I just edited one that's coming out next month. And this guy had 3 terminated contracts. He had so much gold in what he said. 3 terminated contracts, and then finally found a home, but he had switched agents. So the interview talks about a bad experience with agents, but then an amazing experience with agents, which I love. And I kind of like, my voiceover part of it was like, pay attention to this as agents. Like, and I just had commentary to it, right? But it wasn't on it. It's just so much fun, like to be able to educate in that different kind of way.
Okay. So when you're educating, what are you teaching on lead generation?
Well, so my first lead generation, when I first started in selling in 2010, nothing was selling. So, and I had no clients. So I had to learn expireds for sale by owners, the people who were pissed off at the world.
Right.
So I fortunately don't do a ton of that now anymore. Everything I do is by relationship. So what I'm teaching more now on relationship is, because I think a lot of people are like, well, how else do I pour into my sphere of influence? Like I've touched them every month and like, how do I get more business out of them? In my opinion, right now, the majority of your sphere is not transacting in this market.
Sure.
Because they live in a home, they've got low interest rates.
Right.
It doesn't make sense for a lot of them unless there's some kind of reason that they need to move. A lot of them aren't moving. So I find that, in the past, let's just say year or so, since the interest rates have gone up, your sphere, your shoe-in people that would transact with you every few years are not moving, which is why a lot of our businesses have gone down a lot.
Okay.
Because there's not as many transactions, as many whatever. So right now, our lead generation is not how much more can we give to our sphere, but it's who does our sphere know that is transacting. So we're educating our sphere of influence, how we're touching them is, hey, these are the type of homes that we need. These are the type of clients we want to meet. We know you might not do anything, but we want to know if anyone has passed away in your family, God forbid, like we want to be your first person you think about when it comes to their property. When someone unfortunately is going through a divorce, like we are here as advocates to help them handhold them through the scary part of divorce of where either one of them are going to lay their head at night. And so I'm walking them through, that's my lead generation now of like, this is what I'm looking for. Estates, people downsizing, or if somebody's become disabled, things that's, and if
but you're still reaching out to the same sphere. You're just asking different questions.
I'm asking different questions, same sphere, but I do mix it up. I lean into my business partners a lot. Home inspectors, lenders, like I'm lead generating to them because they have business to give you. And if they don't have anything, then I go meet people who do. And so business lead generation, like business to business, is a fantastic way when you've exhausted your sphere, right? And then just like, community groups and things like just being out there. Present. But I don't think that there is a magic pill to lead generating more business right now. We've gained a lot of investor clients because investors are having a hard time finding properties. And so that's been one that we've gained. And so, we don't do online leads. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just not our business model. Right.
Well, I've learned, and hosting this show helps a lot too, because I get to look under the hood of a lot of businesses. Yeah. Right. And everything works. Yeah. But will it work for you? Right. You know what I mean? So there's somebody who will come on and they'll say, hey, Zillow to get the front door, and then, we service the back end.
Right.
I've had that.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. There's all sorts of different ways
Right.
to do it, but you got to do something.
Yeah, you have to do
And you
something.
got to be very consistent.
And, like I try to focus on what is selling, who is listing their house. And if I look back at my business over the past year, the majority of our business was either someone moving out of town, they had to move because of whatever situation or work, was somebody had passed away, or there had been rental properties or houses that have been in someone's portfolio for a while that they're just ready to cash out on. There's divorces. There's been situations. That is why people have moved in my sphere for the past year.
Yeah, we've said that, our job as a realtor is to be a fiduciary, right? To do what is best for them.
Right.
And so we had a point where me telling you to sell wasn't the best thing for you.
Yes.
And we had to go and find people that it was the best. So
I actually sent out a video email to my entire sphere. And I sometimes rant. I don't do it on a schedule. Like, that's one thing to learn about me. People are like, do you do it every month? No, I don't do it every month. I do it when it comes to my heart, And I think my clients appreciate that because it's not like a drip campaign. But I get on and I'm like, guys, a lot of you aren't selling right now, and I don't blame you. And I'm just like that. I'm like, I'm not even here to tell you because it doesn't make sense for a lot of you.
Right.
But if you do have people in your world, at work, at church, whoever, your friends, sisters, boyfriend, whatever, like those, and I'm telling them specifically what I need, but it's not them. And then and they see that in me, right? And so there was another point I was going to make on that now I can't remember. Anyway.
No worries. And that's a lot of what we're doing. Going back to the 10 reasons people are moving. I don't know if you saw that, but Brian Buffini put that out, and that was pretty good.
What was it?
So he had 10 separate reasons: upsizing, downsizing,
Death, divorce.
right,
Right.
had a baby,
Right, yeah.
all of the usual things. But it was so amazing because you would go back and look at what business you did last year, and you go, yeah.
That was
there
that,
it is.
right.
There it is.
Exactly. And I think going after more business partners that have those leads for you, like I haven't done it, but I've had the dream to like go make business relationships with assisted living communities. Because there's a lot of people aging into assisted living communities.
That's a whole market.
It's a whole market.
You gotta listen to
That-
I'll send you a few episodes.
I need to listen. So, all right. So there's assisted living. There's divorce attorneys. There's estate attorneys. There's so many different business relationships that you could get a constant flow of leads from if you worked the relationship well.
You've got to work the relationship, and you've got to figure out who they are and what they want and what they need.
Yes.
And then you want to be consistent and not try to be all things to all people. Like when we get on there and we go, I'm looking for anyone who looking to buy or sell a home.
No,
okay,
I can't.
Okay.
Thank you for saying that. I cannot stand it.
No, it's not that. I'm looking.
Stop being generic.
Right. Like this is specifically the challenge that I'm good at fixing. Right.
And so if like, unfortunately, I've been through a divorce. So like, I know the challenges through a divorce, and the challenges are equitable, like how equity is going to be distributed. Right. And so one value add as an agent that you can do for creating relationships to like an attorney is say, look, anytime you need a market value on a house, you don't even have to introduce me to the client. Like, I'll just run it for you really quick, and you can have a roundabout third-party opinion because usually most people, if they're fighting over it, the husband wants, his real estate person and the wife. And we've been on situations where literally they'll be like, I need it to come in as high as possible, because they're doing it for their own benefit. Right. But if you're that resource for the attorney, you're a third party that if two people are disagreeing on the value of their home, you have nothing to do with those people. You just give it to the attorney and you say, this person doesn't know you. They can't flounder the numbers because of you influencing them or you influencing them. And here's what the value is. And I actually had one attorney. This was a really cool thing, and I wish more people would do this. She called me one day. I met her through another divorce attorney that had given me a referral, and we listed the house, and the wife had an attorney and I was representing the husband. Well, I was representing both of them, but like the attorney of the husband is the one that gave me the referral. Anyway, and I had to deal with both the husband and the wife.
Right.
Like, there's also a skill in that of like being Switzerland.
Well, you've got to get them to realize that this is the last thing that they're going to agree on.
Correct.
They both stand to get a lot of money. And then the other big thing that I try to get across in a divorce is, hey, when you have a housing situation, don't call your lawyer at $200 an hour.
Right.
Call me because I'm free until it sells.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
like I actually am on the ground and can do something about it. He cannot.
Right.
He will listen to you and then you'll get a nice big bill and you won't have anything to fight over
Well,
anymore.
and if you're having anxiety over the money part of it, I can get you that answer probably a lot quicker than a real estate attorney's going to call you back.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, divorce attorney. Exactly.
I think that's some social media content that I put out there, not thinking about that. But the servicing that one client, I only knew from this one attorney. But the other attorney on the other side thought I handled the transaction with her client, who was the wife, so well that she started referring me business.
Which is awesome.
She was like, I just love how you handled them, both of them, because I know her and I know him and they're constantly at fight. And so like probably a couple months later, she sends me over, she called me. She said, hey, Jenny, I just want to let you know that I have a listing for you and they don't have a choice. You're written into the court agreement that they have to list with you. And I'm like, yes. How do we get more of those?
Right.
Way to go.
Let me see the court agreements. I got my name.
She did. She sent it to me. It literally said both parties cannot agree, so it will be listed with Jenni Comer. I'm like,
which means you impressed the right person.
Right.
And
so
it's
those are
also
relationships.
I was going to say, and that relationship with the attorney is nice too, because that same relationship can give you multiple. Because when we're working with a client, you get very tight, right? Like they would answer their spouse and then you would be right behind their spouse as far as who would answer that phone call. You might even bump mom and dad,
right?
Unless they were babysitting or something like that.
Right,
but
right.
you know what I mean. Whereas but after the transaction, that goes away.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And they care about you and they like you and they'll probably hire you again.
Yep.
But you'll never have it like you got it then.
Yep. So those are some of the relationships in terms of like lead generation that we focus on now.
So with that being the lead generation, how do you get past the gatekeeper to talk to the actual attorney?
So I have all kinds of wow moments that we do. So first and foremost, I'll try to show up where attorneys are. So if there's a networking group where an attorney is in it, I'll get in that way. I've looked up, but I haven't gone to like conferences that attorneys, like the bar conference and things like that, to see if I can just get in front. Because my thing is, if I can get in front of people, I can usually create that relationship pretty well.
Right.
But there are different things that we have done. We've dropped off, and again, I like to be different. So instead of dropping off a business card and just, a packet of information, because they're not going to read that.
No.
It's just like, I don't know. I just have a whole thing about that. But we drop off like a basket of Little Debbie cakes and Twinkies and M&M, like all the like junk snack food that like nobody has in their break rooms. We do that because it's a standout moment. It's not just a thing of cookies or donuts, because they all get donuts like all the time. And so we do that, if you haven't had a Twinkie in a while, like here you go. Like, and so we just put our name with that and like ask if they'll just put it out there for their attorneys. Or energy drinks, especially for like attorneys. They're working late hours, like put some Celsius or Red Bull, things like that. So we just do different things and be like, where did this come from? It makes them question of like, who brought the Twinkies? It's like, it's not the normal who brought the cookies.
Right.
Does that make sense?
So a little, just a different snack
Something
type thing.
Different. Yeah.
Like a little something different, but dropping it off to So where I've had the most success is creating value for them and asking them what they need. And and I've done more estate attorneys than I've done divorce attorneys, because I've never been divorced and I just don't know that process as well. But with the estate attorneys, I've done a lot more of like, here's my referral list. Here's a list of contractors.
That's so smart.
You know what I mean? Because
organizers.
Yeah.
Junk people.
Here are the vendors and
antique stores.
Yes.
All of the things.
Yep. And you're handing them those solid relationships. You're also, how do you get the attention of anybody? You give them business.
Correct.
You give them opportunities. And we've talked about it on this show, But an estate attorney, who needs an estate attorney?
Right.
Anyone with assets or family,
Correct.
right?
Literally.
Like even
Right.
21-year-old who just bought a house, now you have an asset.
Mm-hmm.
Probably should, figure out what happens.
You hit the nail on the head with that. Giving them business to show, and that's how people get in with me, like
Yeah.
vendors. I'm like, give me business and I'll see how you work, and then maybe we'll create. And that, I mean, one of my favorite lenders, that's how he got in with me. I wasn't interviewing for lenders, but he gave me a referral, and then I saw how he worked, and now I love him.
Well, I always think it's funny when I have an attorney or a lender, real estate attorney, they come to you and they go, why don't you try me out? You give me business. And then and you're like, wait,
Why don't you try me out?
that's kind of what I was thinking. Like if I'm giving you business, you have nothing to lose.
Right.
You're saying that you value my relationship.
Right.
Maybe you, and the other one that irks me on lenders is when they're like, their whole business model is calling realtors. I'm like, you can't help me.
Yeah.
We'll give you your business back. Great.
So I tell you, I do, like I was just talking to you before we started this, like I do a training for vendor partners on what to do and what not to do, how to get in front of an agent and what not to do to get in front of an agent, what's going to get my attention, what's not going to get my attention. And I'm going to tell you, one of the things that does not get my attention or that I get or you're not going to get a call back for, if there's any lenders listening to this, is asking me to lunch. I don't want to go to lunch. I don't know you. I already have enough lunch appointments. I don't want to go to coffee either. I want you to show me like some kind of value. But there wasn't a lender that recently got a lunch appointment with me.
Okay.
You know how he got it? I taught a class. He was in the class. And I talked about these Damn It dolls. Do you know what a Damn It doll is?
I do not.
Oh, God. It's so good. So you can order them off of Amazon. They look like, sounds terrible. They look like little voodoo dolls, but they're not voodoo dolls. They're just these little stuffed things that have this wild hair, and they have all these different patterns on the fabric. Mm-hmm. And they have this saying on the chest, and it basically says something like, when you're frustrated, blah, 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 and you just want to tear all the stuffing out, whack it up against the wall and yell, damn it, damn it, damn it. Anyway, I taught about how agents, because it was agents mostly in this class, about how this could be a wow moment for their clients in a frustrating market. Like, just drop off a damn it doll. It will make somebody smile or laugh, like, oh, that's really cute. And so he took what he learned in that class and a couple of days later dropped off a package of Damn It dolls to my office. And I was like, okay, I like how you work. You understand.
Right. You took the time to figure me out.
Correct. You understand to figure me out and what like wows me.
Right. What I would find value in.
Correct.
And you were listening.
Right. And so I was impressed by that. I was like, you know what? That's really nice. Instead of just but then he followed up a couple of weeks. I saw him at a couple of other events and then followed up. And yesterday kind of caught me off guard. He's like, can I go to lunch with you? And I'm like, yes, but it's going to be like a month from now. And that was fine with him. It was no pressure. You know, he just was relevant.
Well, I always tell people that, even clients, they go, well, we're going to be selling, but not anytime soon or something like that. And I'm like, good news. I'm going to be in business for a long time. Right. And my joke is, my wife says I get to, retire when I die, which is exciting because I don't have to work the haunted house circuit or anything, like I just get to be done. That's great. Right. You know what I mean? But you're taking it easy on them. I mean, you're making it okay. Yeah. Like, do call me. I'm here if you need anything. Yeah. Like, I'm checking in with you because I care about you. I'm not going to ask you to buy something or sell something. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't really ever ask my clients if they want to buy. I don't know that I have done that since I started real estate probably. I ask them more indirectly of, hey, we have a buyer, and usually it's true. I don't make it up. No. It's like we have a buyer looking in Powhatan and I go into details like, 2 acres, first floor, primary, they need this, they would like that. Who do you know that has a house in this area? And they may raise their hand if it's them. And they may. You can do it both ways. You can do it based on looking for a house, but you can also do it based on like, I have a house that I'm selling. Who do you know that wants to be in this neighborhood? And it could be them. Right. But it could not be. It's an inadvertent way of asking for business without asking them for business. So is that your lead gen calls? Yeah. So you're making calls about
No, I don't
house.
make calls now.
Okay. You just
Be
gave that
honest
up.
with you.
That's fine.
I don't. I provide value to my clients, usually through video, social media, personal text messages.
Okay.
I
But
mean,
you are contacting them.
I
mean,
am
a text.
contacting them. I'm not picking. You know why? Because I hate talking on the phone.
Okay. But that's what I'm saying. But you are, but texting them individually is
Yeah.
is just like a call.
My new favorite thing is voice memos. I love it. It is like I'm calling them, but I can not have to have the whole long conversation, but it's my voice and they hear my voice. And sometimes I'll just be like, hey, hey, Leslie, it's Jenny. I was just thinking about you today. I hope you're doing good. Like, the market's crazy. If you ever need anything, let me know. I'm here. End, send, done.
I like to do, because I will do calls because I'm usually driving somewhere.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the text is a little harder when you're driving. But I'll usually call them and say, hey, you just popped into my head. I had a couple minutes between showings. Mm-hmm. Just wanted to check in on you and see how things are going. And you know what I mean?
But the voice memo is the same way.
It is.
You're
but,
not texting?
But my point being is like I'm telling them I only have a couple minutes,
Yeah.
which I think that's big.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're
Yeah.
like, man, I had an in-depth conversation with one person,
Yeah. There's a couple
which is great.
clients
No, and you do have clients where that makes sense, and that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things where you're like, man, I needed to get to 36 calls this week, and
Right.
contacts.
And see, that's I'll be your unconventional one on here
Sure.
to just be honest with the group because I feel like a lot of people are like this too. I used to do that. I did. I used to teach it, and I used to make my team members do it, and there is nothing. There's agents should lead generate, but I think you have to lead generate in the way that works for you.
Right.
Because to me, most of my clients don't want me calling them.
You're going to assess that. You're going to figure
Yeah.
that out.
They want me to touch base with them, shoot them a quick text, voice memo, message on social media. I keep in touch with a lot of my clients on social media. We just keep up with each other's lives that way.
I have found that the easiest way to get a hold of you is Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yes.
called, I texted, and then
Sometimes
I was like,
text. I've gotten
Facebook.
really bad about all of it. I'm just overstimulated with messaging, but like that is my way of doing it. So if you do want to get in touch with me quicker, send me a voice memo because usually I'm like, I need to hear that.
That makes sense.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
On
no.
text.
Well, it does. Well, the text message, I like text message because it is like instantaneously. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not an email. It's not a, Facebook Messenger.
Well, sometimes Facebook Messenger, I don't see that. I usually see Instagram more than I see Facebook. Well, I don't know.
Well,
Weird.
but there's so many places that they can get a hold of us.
Also, I'm coming from a girl saying this who has literally 955 unread text messages right now. I'm that girl. 955.
I have 50, and I have been looking for them because it bothers me.
Oh, no. At some point, you just, you just pass a line. You're like, wow, I'm not going to ever clear that. 955. People look at my phone. They're like, you're crazy.
Your client goes, no wonder. This is, yeah, okay.
I have to tell people whether this is right or wrong. Mostly, if it's interesting. Clients, I am very aware of like needing to talk, respond back to them. But we're all human, right?
Right.
We get busy. I read something while I'm at a stoplight, and then I forget to respond. But you see more and more of that. More people have more shame over not responding to someone because they've just forgotten. Because we're all overstimulated.
Yeah.
And so I will sometimes say to people, "Hey, look." Sometimes I will read a message and like I'm on the go and I am in the middle of an appointment or whatever. And it's not that I'm ignoring you, but if you don't hear back from me, like just ping me again. Like I give them permission to say, hey, Jenny. Now I don't want my clients thinking that I'm unavailable to them. That's
Right.
not the case. But we're all human.
Yeah.
And I think your clients are that way too. So I think for agents
What?
getting in their head about somebody not responding to them or not calling them back, it's just life.
I was going to say, you also run into like they're buying or selling a house. That's the most important thing they have going on.
Yes.
You're like I am. We're doing 10, 12 of them at a time.
Correct.
Plus the people that we're talking to that might buy a house,
Right.
plus family, plus all the other normal things.
Every other thing that we have involved.
Yeah,
you know?
that's interesting. That's super interesting. What's the biggest takeaway you've gotten from an event?
What kind of event?
Any kind of event.
Like a conference? Like you mean
Sure.
like educational thing? Okay, so I went to Built How out in Scottsdale last year. And that's a Ben Kinney thing. But one of the things that I took away from that, because, in the middle of last year, our business, I mean, I've always had a pretty good business. And last year, our business was terrible. And I think a lot of agents can relate to that. So I go to this conference and, we're talking through market shifts and, they have all these people on the stages. And the biggest impact to me was that they had these top agents on the stage all talking about how their business has suffered and delivering the message of if you just can maintain right now, doesn't mean you don't need to be super profitable. Just if you can just stay in business, then you are winning. And I just remember sitting there being like, I am so glad they just said that. Not just for me, but for this entire room who or some of us are really struggling. And you have top people saying, A, I'm struggling too. And B, just stay in business. That's your goal. The goal right now is to stay in business. And I'm like, bravo. Bravo for that message, because I think stages are an important place for people to influence other people. But if we're just influencing of like, oh yeah, I sold 1,000 homes, last year and business has been great and we do this and we do that and we do this and we do these client parties and we do, that is okay to teach. But when you have to read the room, right? When the entire industry is struggling, we need to read the room and help those people by delivering messages of vulnerability. And I've seen a lot of real estate leaders across the country delivering that vulnerability. And I think that is exactly what we need right now.
I like the vulnerability. My worry is when everybody starts coming back and they're like, nope, the market's great and spring has sprung. And you're going, oh, wait, mine is still not, I'm not feeling that yet.
Exactly. So I'm actually doing a thing tomorrow on that because it's spring market and we have a listing that's not selling. So I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about why.
I was going to say, the other big thing that I found in real estate, and I thought this was really good at a conference, we put our worth in our production.
Yes.
As an agent. I've seen agents lead with, I did blah, 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 blah.
Of course, everyone does ego. Right.
Or it's a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm in this room. Everybody knows who you are. I produce two. But if you don't check the numbers, I don't do it on social media, whatever.
Right,
the reason is, I want you to know that I belong here, kind of thing.
Right. Inclusive.
Right.
And that's, to me, the role that I hold with real producers is a struggle, but also a blessing. So the struggle, the part of the struggle is that magazine is based on production.
Yeah.
The top 500 in an area. And so it is very numbers driven. And so that lack of inclusivity, and I get the purpose of it is to celebrate the top people, but the people who are just under it or who have fallen from the top 100 down to 100, their business has suffered. And so they were here and now they're here. There's feelings about that, right?
Sure.
Now you're not included, or now you don't get the recognition, or now you're not on the list, or whatever it is. And so... But I think that has opened up, for me, even more, compassion to the people who were in that top 500. I mean, we were one of those too. We're in top 500 and then probably not anymore. There was an agent I talked to the other day and she's like, I don't know if you want to interview me because I am no longer in the top 500, but I am an amazing agent. And I don't think it's
I still have my same skills.
Right. It's just... people go through life or whatever, ebbs and flows of business, but the market didn't help, right?
I was going to say, that's the other thing that I've noticed. You'll see older realtors and you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know that they were the man or the woman in their day.
Yes.
And it just gradually kind of I guess priorities shifted. That's what I like to think.
Priorities shifted, or there was an agent that was at one of my Real Producers events, and I was like, I am so happy to meet you in person. She was like, to me, a legend.
Right.
You know, I'm like, I'm so happy to meet you in person. She was like, oh my gosh. She was like, I don't know if you. I'm like, I'd love to do a feature on you. Like, I'd love to talk to you. And she's like, I don't know if you want to talk to me. This has been the worst year I've had ever since I started real estate. And I'm like, in that moment, not that I liked that she said that, but I did kind of like that she said that, because to me, she was a legend. And now she's also struggling, so I'm not alone.
And she's being a little humble.
Correct. And so, but the good part about the Real Producers, and there's lots of good parts. You get people in a room to collaborate, to help each other, you get the rising stars, the people who are not on that list, in with the people who are in the top 500, and they all get to collect and collaborate and inspire and help educate and bring those rising stars up into hopefully the top 500, the top 100. And I think that's just an awesome, like, collaborative spirit within that magazine. So
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I know I know you have a hard break after this, so I won't take up but so much more of your time. One more question.
Okay.
What's your favorite quote?
Favorite quote. So it's maybe not a quote, it's a Bible verse.
That's fine.
Okay, and I'm gonna ad hoc it, like it's not gonna be the exact verse. It's a log in another's eyes is often a splinter. No, a splinter in another's eyes is often a log in your own.
Okay.
And what that means to me is whatever you're picking or judging or thinking about someone else's, search for it in you.
Okay.
And usually it's there.
Oh, it is. It's always there.
And I've learned a lot. I do a lot of life coaching, personal, deep work. And one time that was given to me. And when I started thinking about it, I was like, oh my God, it is in me. It just looks different. You know, like whatever I'm judging or resenting or whatever in the other person is in me. And so anyway, that's my favorite Bible verse.
I like that one. That's different than most people you get, you know, if they're going to the Bible, they go straight to one that we all say.
Oh, y'all. And like, I can't even tell you what Bible it's my favorite. I speak it all the time. I don't even know. I can't even tell you who wrote that.
Yeah. You don't know what book it comes from.
That's the vulnerable side of me, right? I'm like, I know it. I know the premise of it. I live by it. I check myself by it a lot, but I don't have it all perfectly memorized. So there's that.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, Jenni. Tell them where they can find you and all the things you're working on.
So again, I have Behind the Mind, which is a membership program within the Real Estate Method. But the way you find me on that is either themethodllc.com, or the best way to really keep in touch with me is on Instagram at Jenni Comer, and it's JenniComer. It's not with a Y. Or on Facebook at Jenni Comer. And our company is at Jenni & Co. So
perfect. Thanks again for doing this.
All right. Thanks, Danny.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to apply this information to your business immediately. This message will not self-destruct in 5 seconds. Good luck, agents.